Hello, hello. So what you just saw was a quick demonstration of how Lorigraph, this piece of software for the Oric, is actually working. But the topic of today is not Lorigraph or Oric especially. It's all the painting program I've been using during all my career as a programmer, I guess, because I will not call myself an artist. I've been doing a lot of graphics, but it was mostly to accompany software creation, so it was just a part of the whole. And so all these are the programs I've been using during my career. My interest in computer graphics started in 1984, roughly, when I saw the first leaflet from Apple for the Macintosh with Mac Paint, which was very fancy, with some geisha and some how to design a pair of sneakers. And yeah, first mouse cursor icon, that was very, very awesome. And a bit later, I also was interested in video games, and there were this French magazine, Tilt Micro Loisirs, which also had some very nice covers made with something called Paintbox, I believe, with graphics from VTRX and was it Jérôme Tesser, the artist there. Yeah, so I wanted to do the same thing. Unfortunately, all I had was my Oric Atmos, which is not very, very powerful machine, and I did not have any painting program, so I had to improvise, mostly by using type-ins, like a small basic program. If you press the left key, it moved by 1 pixel, and then a curset and draw online. And you can only go that far until I decided to invest in some proper software, and so I bought myself Lorigraph. So Lorigraph, système de développement graphique, complete with a very impressively complete manual for the time and for the machine. I bought it mostly because, well, it looks like the real thing with icon, mouse, cursor, so it was like my own version of Mac Paint. Unfortunately, I did not really like it, so I'm not sure if you saw on the intro of Lorigraph, but you basically need to move a small cursor using the arrow keys. In theory, it also supports the joystick, but it does not change anything to the fact that it's quite slow, and then it accelerates a bit. But every time it goes back to the center, and it's a huge waste of time, and so I did not really like it. Another problem was that there were no keyboard shortcuts, so you had to use the UI. And everybody knows that the UI is great to learn a program, but keyboard shortcut is what makes you productive. And unfortunately, Lorigraph did not do that. I also got Master Paint from Air Informatique, and if you go at the very end of the video, you'll see a small video showing Master Paint demo mode. So Master Paint has a very different approach to the system. So first, it's absolutely impossible to use on an emulator because it uses this set of keys on the keyboard which don't map anything on between the Atmos. But it's also supposed to use a joystick, which I did not manage to get running. But that one has things like pressing O on M, on A, on X, on C for circle. So you can actually navigate. And if you press H, you have a small table at the bottom that shows with the graphical icons what is what. And using that, you can actually learn the system. So Master Paint, maybe not as advanced as Lorigraph, but much more usable. Both programs suffer from the same major defect, which is because you bought them and because they were expensive, they had to show a loading screen. And when you have an inspiration for making some drawing, and yeah, what is that I wanted to draw? You don't know because it takes 5 minutes to load and it's terrible. And so I came back to the system of having my own type-in, except I discovered this painting program in Sciences et du Micro, a French magazine called L'Artiste, which was quite advanced, actually way too advanced, but it also came with a miniature version of the program, which gave me some ideas. So basically, all the follow-up graphics I did on the Oric were not done with Master Paint, they were not done with Lorigraph, they were not done with this program here, but they were done by my own program, which was basically a Frankenstein version of all these things. And that basically is the first big program I wrote, on why I became basically a two programmer. And then I decided to invest in something proper, a graphic tablet. And I bought myself the Graphiscop. That was towards the end of the Oric, so prices were going down. But the thing was absolutely terrible, completely inaccurate. It was so wobbly that you could not draw a line. Even using a ruler on following, it would just do some terrible. And my best friend, that some of you know as Dr. Click from TTZP, the group I was in before Next. He had an Atari 800 XL with the Atari tablet, which was a decent one, and he bought an Atari ST. I had to play with it because he wanted to write a role-playing game, and he has a problem distinguishing colors, so he wanted to make the code and I will make the graphics. So I started doing that, so I'm going to his place, and that's where I discovered NEOChrome, which is one of the two most used programs on the ST in terms of graphics. NEOChrome, the full color paint program. So there you go. NEOChrome presents a new level of creative expression. So the killer feature of NEOChrome was that you could select the color directly in the color matrix. Normally the machine can display 16 colors only out of 512, and NEOChrome was somewhat managing to display not all of them, but not far from all of them. But it's just a cheap trick, basically. The thing is using 15 colors and changes palette every 8 pixels. And, yeah. But anyway, this trick was also used to make the real-time zoomer, which was also very fancy, and for people which have a good hand-eye coordination, probably works very well. The problem is that it means you are always drawing at the natural speed of the mouse, and every single inaccuracy you do means that it's very hard to correct. So I did not quite like NEOChrome. I did all my early pictures with NEOChrome, but despite all the good things about it, I did not like it, which is why I became a Degas user. So this one is Degas Elite. And Degas Elite, as the name implies, is the elite version of Degas. And Degas means Design and Entertainment Graphics Art System, by batteries included. So it also comes with quite a large manual. And many people don't like Degas because it's a gem program, which means it's slow. You lose the right click because right click is used to go back to the selection menu selection. But it works in 3 resolutions, so you can do low, medium, high-res graphics with it, which is quite nice, which NEOChrome can't. NEOChrome only supports the 16 colors low resolution. The nice thing with the Degas Elite is that it was very easy to learn because everything you see was basically in the UI, except a few very advanced features. NEOChrome is optimized. Every icons do 2 things depending if you do with the left click or the right click. And by default, it is very difficult to use. After, when you know it, that's perfect. But when you don't, it's very problematic. On both NEOChrome and Degas, as I said, were evolved. So NEOChrome became a NEOChrome Master, made by the people from Delta Force. I think it was a Chaos ENC. and with a small scroll text saying, now there is no reason to not use the NEOChrome anymore. That was a message to the Degas people, except the Degas people moved to CrackArt. So I don't have the box of CrackArt because CrackArt was a shareware program. And honestly, this program will have deserved to have an actual box release. It has all the advantage of all the program. It works in low resolution. It can be launched from medium res, which you can't do with Degas, which is very practical. You can integrate it in your development environment, which generally run in medium resolution, and then you could do a keyboard shortcut. It will run CrackArt. CrackArt had a lot of advanced features. They even have small games like Tetris on the Pac-Man. So quite a lot of nice things. But if there is one thing that CrackArt does not do very well, it's color management. Unfortunately, it was never extended to support STE colors, so it's only limited to the standard 512 colors. But fortunately, it does not damage the palette. So you could use an external tool, which I did, to edit the palette to have the STE colors, and then you will reload the picture and use the built-in palette. So that was doable. One thing that NEOChrome Master did is that you could have additional palettes. That was very practical to do things like testing a game with a game section and a small border. But there were another program who did even better for the colors, and that is Spectrum 512, which, if I put it in the right direction, will run better. So the Spectrum 512, the ultimate paint program, create photo quality pictures with your Atari ST in 512 colors. So for me, this program is a bit of a piece of software alien. I don't even know. So it's from 1987, and at this time, half of the demo scene programmers I know were not even able to do a stable single background raster line that did not wobble when you move the mouse. And there comes Spectrum 512, which just allows you to change the color palette. It does that automatically when you paint. I think like 3 full palette change per skyline for all 200 lines, displaying the entire color palette to select the colors. Real-time, pseudo-real-time, with a small delay, anti-aliasing, copy-pasting of blocks, circles, anti-aliasing. Crazy piece of software. With just one major issue, which is because 80% of the CPU time was spent refreshing the screen, it is not very nice to use. The programmer probably had to do something with the mouse handling, so it does not work with mouse accelerators. And as a result, it does not feel as natural to draw, so that was kind of a problem, and I think that was the main issue with Spectrum. Plus the fact that you could not basically use any of the Spectrum graphics in a game. That would simply not work. But you could use the Spectrum 512 to do intro pictures, which was quite often done because, yeah, that was natural and you could show something nice, or maybe the game over screen will work nicely in 512 colors. But one thing which helps with Spectrum is that there were an alternate version, I think it was called Unispec or perhaps SpecDeg, which was basically a desk accessory version of Spectrum 512. And what that means is that you could run Spectrum from another program, as long as it was a gem program, like, let's say, Degas. And the great thing with that is that it will implementing some kind of fancy copy-paste API. So you could use Degas, which was much nicer to draw in 16 colors, use the Degas block cutting feature, and go back to the Spectrum accessory and paste your 16 color block inside the Spectrum 512 picture. Which is how I did some compositing, building a bunch of elements, character in 16 colors, a background element in 16 colors, a logo in 16 colors, all put together, and you end up with a picture which does not have 512 colors, but like 40, 50, 60 very easily. which I think was probably the best way of using Spectrum, other than maybe using a digitalizer, which also was possible. And I also wrote, I always work program, my own painting program, but they were never complete painting programs. So I did some palette editing tool to compensate for track art color palette problem, and also Rembrandt 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 were on the ST. 1 I could not find a trace, but Rembrandt 2 was used for one single thing, which was making overscan pictures. So like in the Phaleon demo, you have this character from a NEC PC Engine Super Graphics game, Is, and I saw this nice character in tilt in a screenshot on an article, and I redraw it, and for the Phaleon I made a full screen version. Problem is that there were no program allowing you, they arrived later, but allowing you to draw and visualize in full screen. So I made my own mini program for doing that. It's basically been used only for that. So, and then there were Spectrum 3, Rembrandt 3 on the Falcon, which I made, which never left the stage of beta, 3.06 beta. And the reason was that I was at university, my Falcon only had 4 megs of RAM, this machine is super slow, there were not enough memory to actually assemble the program in DevPack, run it, and then load a picture. So every time I had to reboot in raw resolution with no accessory, no nothing, test that it works, restart, and then I just got fed up and I gave up. Which is when I joined Adeline Software. And in Adeline Software, we were using Deluxe Paint, not the Amiga version, but the PC version. And this is going to be an unboxing because I got this brand new piece of software, which I don't care, first publisher, but with a free Deluxe Paint inside. So let's see how this free Deluxe Paint inside looks like. I'm sorry, Graham. What's the point of getting software if you can't use them? Stop! Register now! And you'll get a lot more than just a helpful product support. So, enhance graphic power upgrade to Deluxe Paint 2 Enhance, save $75. Super high resolution. Accessory collection, Electronic Arts Deluxe Paint II warranty registration. It's free. Mail the card below today for free tips on technique using Bitstream Frontware. And there I got Deluxe Paint 2 by Dan Silva, Electronic Arts. Minimum configuration IBM PC XT80 PS2 compact on the 1000, 3000 IBM compatible. Metro Image Base, a tool for mastering fine art of communication. Using DPFS first publisher on Deluxe Paint 2. Using Product Together. What, depending of which screen you have, VGA, GS, EGA, Hercules. Bitstream, which is a typeface, so a character set. Accessory collection catalog. First publisher. And there we have it. Deluxe Paint 2 for your IBM uncompatible. And this is Dan Silva. Oh, the memories. Yeah, so it supports quite a lot of resolution, from 322 by 200 in 4 colors to 700 by 348, so that's the Hercules. But what we were using was actually 640 by 480. In 256 color. So I guess we had an enhanced version, not that one. Because all the games from Adeline were done in SVGA. So we were drawing in 640 by 400 something in 256 colors. And I kept using Deluxe Paint at home for quite a while. And then I discovered the program I am still using today, which is Paint Pro. So I believe the first version I used was Paint Pro 4 or 5 maybe. Was pirated. And then I bought the digital edition, so download only. I think it was it. Yeah, in 2001, and it was not particularly cheap actually, it was $99, not a fortune, but considering it was supposed to be just a cheap shareware, that was a bit expensive. That being said, that was supposed to be a cheap competitor of Photoshop, and Photoshop was way beyond that price. Then I upgraded to PSP 8 in 2003, and finally PSP 9 in 2004, which is that one. I also bought PSP 10, which I really regret. That was from Jask Software, was bought by Corel, and that was the first full Corel product, and it was terrible. Because the reason why I like Paint Pro 9, or the previous Paint Pro really, is that it is an hybrid program. You can do what you could do with older version of Photoshop. Of course, it can't do all the fancy AI-powered smart background removal of something. But you can do a lot of special effects. You can repaint. You have layers. You can scan. You have also scanner support and camera support and all that. You can use a graphic tablet if you want. But it also has a full pixel art support, which means the location of pixels is predictable. If you draw a line, non-anti-aliased, the pixels which are selected between the 2 points are going to be what you would do if you were doing it by hand, which is not the first pixel, not on the same segment, on the rest of different lengths, looking horrible. Which is what happened with Paint Pro 10. Basically, in Paint Pro 10, they gave up with the old graphic engine. They replaced something by a brand new one, which probably all in floating point internally. And when you disable anti-alias, the results are absolutely horrendous. So it was absolutely unusable. On the modern version of Paint Pro, they are simply... I can't use them. I tried multiple times the demos. Just the splash screen, the time it takes to load, you are still waiting. It's just very depressing. I also tried other programs since then, like Krita, which I think has some good potential. It's a bit buggy, but as far as free software goes, it's a good example of something which is made by people who seem to have a clue about what drawing is, which is not what I could say from GIMP. GIMP is like the result you get when you give a bullet point of the features of Photoshop and you ask somebody who has absolutely no clue about graphics to implement that. And yes, technically they have all the features, and no. There were also graphics too, which is useful now and then, especially for doing things like limiting the range of colors to use, like, for example, only 512 color, which Paint Pro you can do, but yeah, it's kind of not very practical. But I don't like graphics too. It's like inspired by Deluxe Paint, but it's not as logical in the way it's designed. So I could never really like it. ProMotion, which is very good, very powerful, but there's something in the way the workflow work where I could never get into it, so which is why I never registered it. I tried it 3 times and never used it after that. And of course there is Photoshop, but for moral, religious, whatever reasons, I refuse to use subscription-based software. So that eliminates pretty much all the Corel, Adobe software, which is kind of limitative. Also protected software. Other than games, because I don't really have choice, I'm a game programmer, I refuse to use protected software. If I can't just reinstall it in 6 years from now, I'm not going to buy it. And so I'm going to finish this video by what I said, a small demonstration from Master Paint. So I hope that was interesting. So I did not do any demonstration of how the software works, because then the video would have been very, very long. But if you're interested by in-depth explanation of how any of the program work, and why I use it, how I'm using it, like on the Oric specifically, I'm using Paint Pro like with a 6-pixel grid. On the Atari ST I'm using something but 320 resolution. Yeah, so just comment about it, and don't hesitate to give feedback.